Autism is a disorder of brain development. We know from the research the connectivity and collaborations of the neural pathways are underdeveloped in brains of people impacted by autism. The underconnectivity of the neural pathways directly impacts how people with autism learn, understand, and process information. In other words, the way the brain with autism works is different than a brain that is developing typically. Sometimes these differences yield fascinating abilities. For example, some very young children with autism learn to read without being taught. Some have incredible musical skills, and others have the ability to memorize many facts. Unfortunately, the brain differences in autism also cause critical impairments that often lead to the inability to utilize the strengths. Dr. Stephen Gutstein, the founder of Relationship Development Intervention, the RDI program, summarizes these strengths and impairments by categorizing different types of thinking into static and dynamic. Framing cognitive abilities in this way clarifies the aspects of communication, learning, and thinking that would be most helpful to address for people with autism. Static intelligence is about rules, patterns, and predictability. Sometimes the rules and patterns are very simple. For example, 2 + 2 always equals 4, and sometimes very complex. For example, what day of the week was April 22nd in 1918? Static thinking is important and useful in many aspects of daily living. It provides us with grounding and predictability. It gives us a way to orient and regulate by giving us consistency and patterns to count on. People with autism often have strengths in the areas of static processing. Examples of static thinking include problems with right or wrong solutions, like math, logic, and facts. Examples of static memory include memory for details, facts, scripts, procedures, and formulas. Examples of static communication include means to end to get what you want, questions with preset answers, commands, and prompts. As a group, people with autism have significantly more difficulties with another type of processing, which we refer to as dynamic thinking. Dynamic thinking includes abilities that are changing or not absolute in nature. We use dynamic thinking when we are faced with problems with no true right or wrong answers, when we need to balance multiple roles, when expectations are not clear-cut, and when emotions come into play. Dynamic intelligence includes abilities that are not explicitly stated, that may rely on unspoken understanding of the context or understanding others' perspectives. Dynamic processing comes into play in all aspects of daily and social living. For example, we use forms of dynamic thinking to make decisions about what to wear, what we should pack for work, how we should respond to others, and when we cope with things that are not going as expected. Often these abilities to cope and go with the flow are taken for granted. Typically, we do not work on these abilities because they seemingly fall into place without effort. In the case of autism, development of dynamic thinking and the mental processes associated with it do not develop automatically. Attempting to navigate the ever-changing world without these abilities is very difficult. These are the core deficits related to autism. At Pathways Treatment Center, we believe it's important to develop dynamic processing with people who have autism. By systematically re-exposing the brain to opportunities to discover dynamic abilities, parents can help their child to strengthen and build greater neural connectivity in the brain. At Pathways, we help parents to understand what to target and how to use strategies that will provide the best opportunities for discovery. We utilize Relationship Development Intervention, the RDI approach, as the curriculum for objectives and strategies for developing dynamic processing. We strongly believe that parents know the child best, and given the right set of tools, parents have the greatest ability to influence brain development with their child.